Welcome to the Life on Shuffle podcast, a collection of stories about people who have taken chances, embraced the unexpected, and inadvertently discovered their true passion. Today we are featuring Richard Sullivan, an artist from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm running solo today and just have Richard on Zoom. And I have some of this, it's from his website, and I'm going to read this. It's straight off his website. Richard Sullivan was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, where his childhood experiences on the baseball field and in art class revealed a powerful connection between athleticism and creativity. Captivated by the energy and emotion of sports and the expressive freedom of art, Richard began fusing these passions at an early age. This dual love led him to Savannah College of Art and Design, where he received a full scholarship to play baseball and study illustration. These are my words. In 2008, he was drafted by the Atlanta Braves and spent 6 years playing in the minor leagues. Afterwards, he continued his journey as an artist and has worked with high-profile clients such as the Atlanta Braves, Woodford Reserve, Topps Trading Cards, and the National Baseball Hall of Fame. He currently owns and operates BNK St Gallery and Studio. And this is another quote from his website about the studio. It says, "This space blends the rich history of its walls with Richard's evolving creative journey, serving as both a vibrant gallery and a working studio where art, community, and inspiration come together." Welcome to the show, Richard.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so I'm already just in love with your story and how, like, it was nowhere what I would predicted it could have been, right? So I was kind of thinking how to best get this going, and I wanted to ask you this: like, how do you introduce yourself professionally now?
At this moment, I just say I'm a visual artist.
Just visual art, and if somebody's like, "Well, you know, like, what does that mean?" or "How do you do that?" or "Do you work for somebody?"
I think before, if you would ask me that like 6 years ago, I would have said I was a sports artist. And that's kind of how I defined my career and my art. And then they would be like, "Well, what's that?" And then I'd have to be like, "Well, I paint athletes for companies and mostly illustration and horses and fine art." So, and it's evolved. So I feel like the broader sense is I'm an artist, I'm a visual artist, and it's always expanding. So there's a lot of routes you could take to explain that.
Yeah, I personally do like some metal work and some metal art, and it took me years before I would even like venture to call myself an artist. Like, I was scared to
I
do
see,
that.
yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Would you have introduced yourself that same way, like while you were in college?
No, I was pretty scared. I think a lot of creative people are afraid to call themselves artists just because we don't, it's hard to claim in our culture because it's so it's just not valued, I think, especially going out of high school or college. And yeah, but when I was a kid, I would have probably just said I was a baseball player. I think the art part of it, the creative part, I kept pretty to my chest.
Yeah. So, but you were still doing it.
Yeah, I was always in middle. I think elementary school was the first time I was in the art class, and I really was like, "Oh, I love this," and I'm, it's pretty intuitive. I love to draw, and it just feels like something that felt safe to me.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know, just looking at what I know about you, it feels like you had like two separate lives that you've lived through your young, your youth, and we'll call that up into when you stopped playing baseball, I guess. And then now, but even your professional work was still like baseball related, like as a, you're illustrating and drawing a lot for, I guess that's what you were doing for the Hall of Fame. And
yeah, it just made sense. I didn't really know what I was going to do after I left baseball. So going, and I had a year left of school left. So I had a year to kind of figure out okay, what am I going to do? And I think baseball just felt comfortable to paint. And it was also like I was missing it. A lot of my friends, like I had played with Freddie Freeman and Jason Hayward and Craig Kimber, all these guys that kind of were getting to the big leagues at that time. And I was like, well, let me just paint them. Let's see what happens if I just start painting some people I know. And the Braves Stadium was just starting to talk about building, or the Braves had just started to talk about building that new stadium. So that was my goal, is like, I am going to paint baseball until this stadium is built, and I want to get my work into that stadium. So that was kind of the direction right after I stopped playing.
Yeah, I want to circle back around to a couple of
Yeah.
points because I think you got some cool insight in all of that. Um, so I was trying to like intertwine these two lives, and you're doing a lot of baseball art, or you had been doing a lot of baseball art. But do you feel like that, your creativity early on, like childhood, would have helped you in baseball? Like, is there any way to make that connection?
That's a good question. Um, I don't think in childhood I would have ever put creativity into baseball, but I think baseball was definitely blended into my art because it's just like the work ethic and the kind of the consistency and the practice and all the things that athletes kind of get when they're younger, which is like the really structured lifestyle, I guess. I think that helped me be a better, or no, like kind of like, okay, I can spend this block of time painting or practicing. And but maybe intuitively I would have, like with that, or maybe it was more of a joy or a presence when I was on the field that I appreciated, like the little things more, like just not baseball aspects so much, but just being outside and being around teammates and just having but they were always mixing, I think. But like you said there, when I felt like I was in these two different worlds for sure.
Yeah, like, well, so this will be good for the listeners in this. You were a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like I like to kind of be insightful about people and their life, and if I had to pick a position on the baseball field at which like somebody could be the most creative, it would be a
Uh-huh.
pitcher. Like
Yeah, that's true.
it feels like that everybody else is kind of waiting and react,
uh
where the pitcher has that opportunity to like, I'm gonna try this right now, or
That's true.
so
Yeah, you're right. And I think every time I threw the ball, like all that energy releasing out of your hand, it was like a creative expression. It was just like, felt like energy was releasing. You were, whatever you were thinking about that day or earlier than day, all this, pent up stuff, even if you didn't know it was there consciously, it was kind of coming out on the field. So I think that's why I loved pitching, is because I could exert all this energy towards something that was um, productive, and it felt really good, and just kind of like it felt like I was, like 100 feet tall, I guess.
so like if you now looking back and if you had to envision a world at which you were not able to be a pitcher, somebody was like, yeah,
Mhm.
you're not cut out for it, but you can go up there and play left field. Do you think
Uh,
you would have meant the
so
same? Like, you think you would have kept with it as long as you did?
I doubt it, honestly. I played first base in college, and that was kind of my off position whenever I wasn't pitching. But it definitely did, like you said, it just, you were reacting to things, and being a pitcher, you were in a defensive position, but being on the offense, and that was a beautiful thing. And um, I think once I found that, like I was on the mound, and that first time, whenever that was, and it just felt right. So yeah, if somebody was like, "Oh, you can't do this," I'd be like, "Well, why not?" Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, honestly, so you went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, and us in the Southeast, we just call it SCAD. I guess y'all.
Yeah, SCAD's what we call it too.
Yeah. So I've known, I don't know, I think three whole people in my 40 years of life that have ever went to SCAD, like ever.
Uh-huh.
And,
Okay.
and I've taught a couple of them. I know, some people around in this area that did. And then when somebody was like, "Oh yeah, he played baseball for SCAD," I was like, I didn't even know he
Yeah,
had a baseball team.
I know.
Um, but so I wanted you to kind of share, if you're willing, like, what were you interested in SCAD before baseball? Did the stars just align and they were like, "Hey, come to ours," because you got a full ride, right? Like,
Yeah.
come to our school for free, and you're like, "This is win-win." Like, how did that play out?
Yeah, I'll tell you that story. Well, so my sophomore year of high school, I was going to a lot of like college showcases, like when you're an athlete in the summer, you can kind of go all over the place, and a lot of colleges will be there, and you warm up and you probably throw against three or four batters. It's kind of like a scouting combine a little bit, but for high schoolers. And I think I had written down on everybody has to fill out a waiver and kind of tell what you're interested in, like career wise. And I think I wrote like graphic design because didn't know. I didn't know there was even a remote chance that SCAD was out there. I didn't know you could go to school for art. But one of the coaches was there and he had seen graphic design. He was like, "Oh, this guy might be interested." So he saw me. I think, at that point, my sophomore year, I was a lefty. I was pretty big for my age, and I was probably throwing 84, 85 at that point. But, for sophomore left-handed, I think they were interested enough to take another look, and they invited me down. Actually, no, I think this is my junior year. So junior year, that would make more sense. But they invited me down. They flew me down to Savannah that year, and I basically did kind of the same thing for their team. I warmed up and I threw against their current lineup, probably in the fall. That would have been, and I think I struck out like 7 out of the 9 batters, and just really had a very successful outing, and felt good. The coaches seemed to fit, and I kind of fell in love with Savannah and the campus and all the things. Yeah, stars aligned, and they offered me a full athletics or a full tuition scholarship, and so I honestly did not know SCAD existed, and I didn't even know they had a baseball team either. It felt kind of surreal at the time. It didn't feel like that junior, in high school before I went, I was kind of scared. I didn't really know what I was going to get into. But it felt safe. It was like, oh my gosh, I have somewhere to play after high school. So that felt like really special going into my senior year.
Yeah. Was there any other schools out there as an option? Did anybody else ask you to come?
Honestly, after I signed that kind of letter of intent, I stopped caring because I was like this. Because at that point, I was in art class. I knew I loved painting. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, but it just seemed like the perfect fit for me at that point, and it was. It changed my life.
I mean, yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad that was kind of how that would have worked out. But so, like I said, I didn't know SCAD had a baseball team. I was like, that's cool that they're even paying people to come and play. And I went down this little rabbit hole.
Uh-huh.
I found this stat out there that was like 11 players have played in some affiliated like professional team that had played at SCAD.
Mm-hmm.
But in there's like a handful of years where there was actually like 3 that were being like picked in the draft, and you're one of them.
Yeah, Ryan's the first, right? Or no?
Uh,
Maybe not.
I had it written down here. There was somebody in 2002, Charlie Zink.
That's right. Okay. Yes. Charlie was the first.
He was drafted in early, but then it was you and Ryan that were like, Ryan was a year before you,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was like, and everybody was a pitcher.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
in my mind, like if I had to explain and reason in the whole world how this is happening, like there's got to be a reason that for such a short amount of time, SCAD is producing like pitchers that are being drafted
Yeah.
into the major.
That's right. I don't know Charlie's story as well, but I can kind of share Ryan's story and my story. And even Steven Shackelford was a year after me. He was drafted. He was the
I,
fourth one drafted.
I did see that.
Um,
Was he also?
so he was a pitcher too. Yep. Yep. But so Ryan kind of was a catalyst in that. Ryan Pope, he was drafted to the Yankees in the third round, and he really was consistent. He was throwing hard. Like he was the guy that all the scouts were looking at in the Southeast for a second. And because of that, he was drafted his junior year, and that would have been my sophomore year. Because of that, scouts started kind of noticing me that year. So when I was a sophomore, they were like, "Oh, who's this lefty?" So they kind of were like curious. So coming into my junior year, but Ryan just had an incredible year. He was drafted third round, which is insane for an art school. Like that's like D1 top. That's like as good as first three rounds are like insane to me to be drafted in. So for Ryan to do that, that was an incredible achievement. But we had a really good pitching coach. So David Haverstick was our pitching coach, and he just was kind of brutal, but he knew what he was doing. He pushed us really hard. He was a really great catalyst for Ryan to like get to that next level, and for me too. Like he pushed me so hard. Some days I didn't even want to come. Like it was just brutal how hard practices were. But yeah, those 3 years were pretty crazy in terms of that. And my junior year, David actually, I think he went to Western Carolina or some other school. So, and we had another pitching coach come in, which kind of was more my style. He was more relaxed and kind of nurtured me instead of like yelled at me.
Yeah.
So
I kind of
yeah.
I kind of thought that there had to have been a coach somewhere like that would have connected, three of the same position. Like, it would have been one thing if it was a bunch of different players being drafted, from a variety of positions, but three pitchers and almost back to back to back.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
3 years between. I felt like there had to have been somebody, I don't know. And I don't know how it works. It might have been where he was advocating and like selling in the most, nicest of ways, like selling y'all as players to organizations saying, hey, you got to come check out this guy.
Yeah. Coaches can do that. They can, if they have connections, but it's up to the scouts. If the scout comes and he's like, well, why'd you invite me? But I think the first game I started my junior year, like there was one or two scouts there. And then by the time the season got done, there was 26. And, there was a energy. I kind of knew I was going to get drafted at that point. So that was, yeah.
How did that feel?
It felt also surreal. Like kind of, I was so focused that year and I was doing really well. I had a really great junior year, and everything kind of clicked with my, with me, my confidence, my ability to pitch, and yeah, it just felt like I didn't know what else I was going to do. I didn't know if I had not gotten drafted that year, I would have been like, well, what do I do? Because that's just what I was focused on. And it felt real, it felt like this is going to be the next step and I'm ready for it. But I didn't have that was just like that year. I think if you would have said that my sophomore year, I wouldn't. I've been, well, I'm not ready for that. So I think there's this evolution that happens when you're present, especially, and I think that's good to hear for young people like you. I think for me, I was just focused on one day at a time, during my college like career. And
Yeah.
I think when I was showing up to practice, I was like, I need to focus on these things, and if I do that, it's a successful day. But I don't think I was like, oh, I gonna get drafted. When I was practicing or even pitching my sophomore year, that wasn't really a focus of mine. It was just like, how can I get better today?
So, like, what was it like doing, the whole baseball thing at college, but then also trying to do college at college?
Yeah, it was awful.
Did not go well.
It went okay. I just to go in an art school, which is, if you can't just cram for a test, you have to make something. You have to put hours into a project, and like a painting or illustration, or a lot of my teammates were architecture students, so they were like pulling all-nighters most of the week during the fall just to make a B or an A, and so I would say that was pretty rough. But looking back, I don't really know how I did it, but I did it. It's just one of those things you just do, and you look back and you're like, well, I'm glad I did that, but I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
I tried not to. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you have good grades?
I had I had decent grades. I had a 2.7 going into my junior year, and I wanted to graduate. Like you had to have a 3.0 at SCAD to graduate. And so I would say I was struggling, because my professors were like, why? Like first of all, they didn't know we had a baseball team. They didn't know we had a sports program. So there was no leniency towards the athletes. It was like the only college in the history of college where the athletes were kind of the like, they're just like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I was curious about that. If it was one of those things where it was like, oh, he's playing ball, like just let him by kind of thing that
No,
happening.
not really. They were awesome. I think I turned in some projects where I put a lot of energy and effort to it, and I did pretty good. But I would say I was turning in half-baked stuff all the time. That my junior or my sophomore junior year. But I will say I redeemed myself. What's that?
Not because that was your ability, but
no, that just the timing of it. Like I was more focused on baseball. I was like 100% committed to baseball, and to the point where if I needed to pull an all-nighter, I wouldn't, just because I wanted to have sleep for the next day. But I will say I redeemed myself, because my senior year, when I went back after all those years, I got straight A's. I was like, oh, college is easy. What was I don't know. But during that time, it felt very challenging to do both.
Yeah. So you were drafted your junior year and finish your degree program or anything like that. And you went and played for 6 years and then back to finish.
Yes. After all my professional stuff was done. And I had an agent at the time when I was drafted, and the best thing he did, and thank God he did, was there's a clause in a baseball contract where it's like college scholarship program, which you can get money to go back to school, and he put enough money in there he calculated in inflation, and like, okay, if he goes back to school in this many years, this is what he needs. So I was very grateful to have that.
Oh wow. No, that's excellent. Like forward thinking there. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
I would have never chose that on my own if I had that
I know. I didn't even know it existed. So I was very happy. And, at the moment, I didn't care, but 6 years later, really helped.
When you were leaving, you had been drafted, you you were going to go to play with some Braves affiliate, and you're like, man, I've done it. Like, you just left SCAD behind, like never even gave it a second thought.
No, it was I mean, I knew I was going to say yes no matter what, I think. Um, because baseball was like what I wanted to do. It was the thing that was driving me forward and the thing I needed to see completed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know what art or my creativity was even going to be uh, at that point. So, and I knew my coaches were happy for me. Everybody understood. It's not like I was like, see you later. I was just like, yeah, this is the next step. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I lived in Savannah after I got drafted for a year, and so I don't know. I still was a part of that community for a little bit. But yeah, it's just one, like it kind of felt like the same point when I got a scholarship to SCAD. It was like, this is the next part of my life, and let's see what happens. I
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen, but let's go see.
Well, so I know this is hard to look back on and not impart some type of, experience or whatever through the last 20 years, I guess, almost 20 years. It's like,
That's wild.
yeah, I know. Did you ever have a thought that like, oh, I'll come back and finish this, or like I at some point will, or was it like, oh, I've got this next thing and then there's going to be one more thing after this, and like, were you only thinking the baseball path, or was there and not like in the back of your mind like, one of these days I'm going to get back to this?
Yeah. No, it was just one. It was one day at a time. And when I got drafted, I was like, okay, let's. I think that the first year, I was nervous, I was excited. There was a lot of feelings that first month. But then as I started to pitch I went to Danville, Virginia, and I started doing really well. I was like killing it for that half year. And that's when I was like, okay, let's try and get to the big leagues. Let's see how far. I just wanted to reach my full potential. I think that's what I always told myself. I was like, as long as I reach my full potential, I'll be happy. But no, there was never like, I never thought, what am I going to do after this? Because you can't. I don't know if all athletes feel like this, but until you stop playing, that's the only life you've ever known. And I don't think you can see a life outside of that until you're done with it. And it's really hard to let that go.
Yeah, I always try to think of like what, who else could feel like that. And I've got family in the military, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that, there's like a good chunk of them that all they think about is the next step, like
uh-huh,
this. But when I'm done, like I'm gonna,
yeah,
all these things with that kind of, not expiration date, but like a timeline that is,
right,
geared towards the younger time. And I guess that's just something I've never had, like that intense drive for one thing.
yeah,
I'm more of the like, oh, I'll try this for a little bit, and then
yeah.
you go on
I will say that's a healthier way to live, honestly, because it's really not. It just creates a lot of anxiety when you're just thinking about one thing all the time.
I mean,
Um,
I can also see that. So, help me, like I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in Charlotte, and we didn't have uh the closest major league team would have been Atlanta.
uh-huh.
Like I was a diehard Braves fan through
Yeah.
the Chipper Jones era, that late
Yeah,
night.
me too.
Yeah.
TBS, they were all every day. You
Yeah,
can watch them.
you
Yeah.
can find it all the time. And
Yeah.
I I remember like that's who me and my brother would have, played in the yard when we're throwing the
Uh-huh.
back and forth and everything. But you said Danville. Are they
Hmm.
a Braves affiliate too?
Yeah, they were the rookie ball. So when you get drafted in June, I think, and then everybody that signs, they go to a rookie ball team, and then they play a half year. it's called like a half season to finish out the September until September, and then there's like low A, high A, double A, triple A, and then the big leagues.
So where would you have fallen in all the different A's and
Uh,
everything coming out right
yeah.
after the rookie season?
So my after the rookies or after the rookie ball, you go to low A, which is in Rome, Georgia. It's and that's and I was doing so well that they promoted me that half season to Rome for a few weeks. So I started my first full year. I started in Rome, and then I went to High A, which was in Myrtle Beach, and then I spent a little bit of time in Double A that first year too. So that first full year, I was like all over the place. It kind of felt like a whirlwind.
And how old would you have been then?
21.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 21. Yeah.
You're just along for the ride.
I am. I'm not thinking. I'm just oh, I'm going here. All right, I'll get on the bus. I'll get on a plane. And my girlfriend at the time, who wasn't with me, but we would see each other every few weeks or a month, and she was always like, "Where are you now?" It just felt chaos, but in an exciting way, like things were happening.
You were going and traveling, I
Mhm.
guess up and down the entire like southeast.
Southeast, yeah.
Yeah, and with a moment's notice and stuff like that. Is that at this level, are they like giving you somewhere to stay? Are there host families and stuff like that?
Yeah. So in rookie ball, I just got an apartment with a few of the guys for a second. That was like really bare bones. We didn't have any furniture. We were sleeping on air mattresses.
Wow.
Like really weird life to live for a few weeks. That was like first entry level to the minor leagues, and then in Rome, there are starting to have host families in like low A and high A. And I had a really nice host family in Georgia. Craig Kimbrell was one of the guys that I was like the same host mom hosted both of us. And I think she had two or three rooms. But you get these kind of quirky people that just love baseball and love hosting kids and just want to feel a part of the game. And it's almost like they feel connected to your journey, if that makes sense. They like, and especially the guys. I think it's every host parent's dream to host a major league player. Like that's what they want. That's why they do it, to say like I hosted Craig Kimbrell.
So,
Uh,
like, did you walk into a house and they say, "Oh, so and so was here before you," or you,
yeah, there's a lineage a little bit.
you
Yeah, yeah.
you might be that person now that they're like, "Oh, yeah, Richard stayed here for a while too," and they might be bragging
I
about.
don't think so, but you might be right. I think a lot of I don't know, the Rome. I don't know. I think Rome still has a minor league team, but yeah, so most of that's coordinated through the team, like the front office. So if you go there and say you want a host family, they could try and set you up with one if they still have one. So, and in high A, I had a really nice family that hosted me, and in double A, I also had a host family. So I was very lucky to kind of have all these surrogate parents throughout my career.
Yeah, that's. I was just thinking how crazy that would be if he was just living out of a hotel room at 21. Like,
Yeah, some
and
people do that, and but they have roommates and stuff, and or if you're, some people had their girlfriends living with them, so they would kind of rent a house for a second. Or it was a vagabond lifestyle, though. It was very just you make it work.
yeah.
Just do what you got to do.
So this is the part, and we're both of the age where you were raised to not talk to people about money or whatever.
Hmm.
But I want
Hmm.
to kind of figure out, like, as far as being 21,
Uh,
you're drafted. Like, what's the financial situation? Like, are you just overwhelmed with financial security, or are you like all this can go away at a moment's notice, and I got to take nothing for granted, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. If you're drafted in the later rounds, you don't get a lot, but I was kind of in the middle. So I got like 150,000 that my drafting or my signing bonus, which I thought I was a millionaire. I thought I was like this will never go away. And when you get to the club, you're making like $800 a month, so that there's no financial security there. So it just depended. But some guys that got drafted in the first round, they had like a $2 million signing bonus. So you had like this disparity of people coming into one team that like the 30 rounders, they didn't get anything, so they're just hanging on by a dream. So I think I was in the middle there where it kind of the team treats you how much they paid you, really. So they're going to treat a first rounder like a baby. They're going to give them every opportunity to grow and to be nurtured and all the things. But if you're like a 30 rounder, and you have to really prove yourself. And for me, I had a lot of success at the beginning, so they were like, oh, they kind of gave me a lot more opportunities than I might have deserved, I guess. But especially at the end of my career. But yeah, it felt like you were in a different world, really. And I didn't know the professional world at all. Like, I didn't know how things worked. I didn't really know. I hadn't been in a professional clubhouse before. There's just so many things that were like, I was like on Mars, basically.
Yeah. So, like, you just had a checking account that all, the normal American would be like, oh man, I wish I had that at 21, but with like
Yeah.
no real,
No,
real like no roots anywhere. Like,
no.
was it?
My parents were not like, if I had some, like, I will say, like, if you have a parent or if you have a kid that's drafted, take that money, put it in a savings account, give them like, don't let them spend any of that money when they're 21, because they might need that money. And that what I did is, like, I just spent it on rent and food, and my girlfriend, we were like, basically thought we were already in the big leagues, as far as that's concerned. So we got this apartment in Atlanta. Anyway, it just felt like I didn't have any clue what I was doing. I was just making it up as I went along, but being very conservative in that too, because I was raised that I just didn't spend money, like it, but I did like want to have a nice apartment and stuff. So it was weird. It lasted, I will say, like, when I got done with baseball after 6 years, I hardly had anything left, just because I was spending it on like living, and I didn't work in the off season, and I don't know. It was funny.
Frivolous living, you weren't.
No, I wasn't. I didn't buy. Some guys bought like $100,000 cars and all the things, and it wasn't like that. I was just like living my life. Yeah.
I mean, I always hear, regardless of the sport, like, oh,
Yeah.
so and so just got drafted for this amount. And I'm like, if I was 21, 22, and somebody said, here's a couple mil,
Yeah.
don't even know. I don't know if I
You'd
could.
spend it.
Yeah, I
You'd
would
do
have it.
something with. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be all philanthropic, or I wouldn't, I might pay off my
Right.
house or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I would,
I will. So it's funny because, like, I think 70, you should look this up, like Google, like, the percentage of professional athletes that are bankrupt by the time they get done playing, because it is an astronomical number. And they talked about that in like spring training, because when you're young, you think that money is going to last forever, and it might last you, but you don't know how long life is. Life is long. Life is really long. It's
longer you think it, like, you at that time, you think you're invincible. You think it's going to go on forever, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think you're going to get to the big leagues, you're going to keep it's going to keep coming. Like it's almost like a fantasy life where the bubble hasn't bursted yet. And I think some people get to the big leagues and their bubble doesn't burst, and they, the Freddie Freemans of the world. But that's like the 0.01% of athletes and in all across sports.
This is not a story that I get to much exposure to, but like, working in a high school and talking to people, I see a lot of, especially like young males that are like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go be a lineman. Or,
Uh-huh.
there's all these TV shows like I'm going to go crab fishing in the Bering Sea. Or
Oh,
I'm
right, right, yeah,
and in my now looking back, I'm like, honestly, like go do it.
yeah,
Like while you're young, before you have a family, before you've set roots and like
yeah,
whatever, like if you can, get that little bit of maybe financial security or something like that, like,
yeah.
you know, I don't know. In my mind, I was curious if you were like, oh, this is only good things right now, or if it was like I'm gonna see how long I can milk this. Like you felt the
Yeah.
future it was only up from there.
Well, yeah, because I think there's a part of being an athlete and being a pro, like you have to feel that feeling of like, I'm gonna make it, because if you don't, why are you doing it? Like there's a level of like you have to believe that, and that you have to, and for me, I went all in. I mean, some people, they might have I know a lot of kids that like their parents like were really kind of nurturing that time in their life, and but I mean, my parents didn't know what to do. They didn't even, they're like, congrats. And but so I think it just depends what your background is and all the things. And but it definitely raised my vibration of like what I can do now. I'm so grateful for that experience, because I know what it feels like to have that security for a second, or know what it feels like to do the things I've done. And I think until you've done them, you have to kind of raise the bar.
Yeah. So, like, you lived it, and this is the first opportunity that I've got to talk to somebody who has, like, pitchers are known to have like an expiration date, quote unquote. Like
Hmm.
that is a that is a position that you can only do for so long or so much, even in a week. Like,
Right, right.
how much of that is like present in your mind at that point in time? How much are the coaches like looking out for you? I mean, you're in a
Mhm.
like developmental league. Like the intent is to, make the best out of, you know, you as possible. So like they
Yeah.
have to be looking out for you. They have to be trying to help you. Are you also like just always thinking about that?
Yeah, I think the minor league coaches are pretty nurturing most of the time, especially in the professional situation. It's not college. You're not like trying to, you know, like tear you down. They're like treating you like an adult. And you can't, like, the first week I was there, I was calling people coaches, and they're like, don't call me coach. I'm not your coach. Call me like, am I, are you, I'm going to call you player if you call me coach.
Oh,
So it was more of a professional setting where this was just a lifestyle. And yeah, I mean, we we can all think about that, like in any career we have. I think like what the expiration date is or whatever. But when you're young, you don't think about that, and I don't think the coaches do either, because they're just trying to get do the best for you. And like they know, I'm sure they know the stats. Not There's only like one or two going to make it to the big leagues, but really they're not thinking about that either. I don't think they're just trying to win ball games and they also have a career, so they're trying to nurture as many players as possible, and get the most out of everyone, because they're trying to level up too. So everybody is in the same system of let's get to the next step.
Yeah. It's not as cutthroat as, baseball movies make it seem or anything like that.
It's more like I'd say it's Bull Durham. Bull Durham's like the best thing I can think of, kind of like because it's that crazy and wild, but it's also like one guy on that team was going to get to the big leagues, and most of the others weren't. And but there's a love for the game that nothing can take. You can't take that away from me. And you even it doesn't matter if you're not going to get the big leagues. You're in on that team in that moment. You have to be present.
And I'm glad you said that. Like that's kind of something that I don't know how quickly you figured that out compared to most people that would have been in their early 20s, right? Like, looking back now, I find level of content in life easier than I did like in the moment.
Yeah.
I would,
And I didn't have that it's not like I was Zen master in my
yeah,
20s. Like I was always like, what can I do better? How can I, and like I wish I had been more present in that and appreciated where I was, because I thought that was going to last forever, that moment. And it didn't. And it never does.
well, what is like the I keep saying expiration date, and I feel like that might not be the best way to say it. But like, should a pitcher expect as far as a career?
Well, I think, I mean, look at Adam Wainwright. He was 40 years old when he got done playing, but that's like a Hall of Fame pitcher. So, and these days, I think if you get to the big leagues when you're 23, 24, 25, you could probably, if you play until you're 30 to 33, that's a great career. Um, but if you're 25 and haven't gotten the big leagues and still in the minor leagues, you're old. Like you gotta figure your life out.
Yeah.
But if you get to the big leagues when you're in your mid 20s, you have a chance to stay there for a second. But you never know. Like there's always somebody else better than you coming up. So
Yeah. So it wasn't so much like you thought there was a physical timeline, like your body wasn't going to allow you to do what it is forever.
mhm.
It was like then there may have been that, but there's also like all it takes is somebody who's just a little bit better than me.
Mhm.
Like are you feeling that pressure of like,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely saw people had that experience where people were gone and you didn't see them ever again. It was like they died. Like they get released and they're gone. And that happens to everyone. And I think the last few years I was not doing great. I wasn't as just didn't have the same stuff I used to have, and I mentally too. I think I was so anxious and so stressed out most of my time during the season that it wasn't enjoyable anymore. There was no pleasure uh, in what I was doing, and I think, but I knew I wasn't going to quit. So honestly, I tell this a lot, but like when I got released, I was relieved. I was like, thank God, like I can like let go for a second.
really? Uh,
Yeah, it felt really, there was so much pressure on me to, um, it just felt I, like I was stuck in a box and I, I didn't have what it took to get out. And I was just trapped because I just had like, I just mentally didn't believe in myself anymore at the end.
like so you could feel it coming to an end and
Yeah.
but didn't want to like you didn't want to be the person to put it to an end like
Right. I wasn't going to cut my own head off, but I knew I needed to dude, somebody had to
like,
let me down. But
I'm gonna live this life as long as I can live it kind of thing.
well, I think I just had so much pride. I thought I was a failure if I had just went in and said, I'm done. I think I would have, couldn't have done that.
Wow.
I would have been, I would have been in, I would have suffered every day rather than, do that.
Yeah.
So at that time in my life, yeah.
So so when you like you said when you got released or
Mhm.
like how did that specifically happen? Like did was it the phone call and pack your
No, it was a funny story too. Like it was 2011, and like that 2011 was crazy because I had just gotten married in 2010. No, winter of December of 2010. So that, but I don't know what we were just not thinking. Anyway, um, I it was May of 2011, and like I wasn't doing great. I just like switched up my mechanics, and really they put me back in double A where I don't know if I should have been in double A, but anyway, I we were in like Tennessee coming back from a road trip, and I think I just given up one of the longest home runs I've ever given up that night.
oh no.
And it was like 3 in the morning, and they were like, "Sully, we got to talk to you." And I was like, "All right, I know what's coming." So, like 3 in the morning, I go to the coach's office, and they're like, we're releasing you." And by that time, everybody knew me. I had been with those coaches for a long time, and it was bittersweet. But I was just like, thank you for everything, and it wasn't like there was no anger or anything there was sadness, but it was like I said, like more of a relief at that moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. In the in those years, did you move up and back?
For 2.5 years, I was in double A. So I had been in the same stadium for a long time. Um, and some of those years, like I was doing really well sometimes and being like, "Oh, I can do this." And sometimes I think my biggest flaw was like, I just wasn't consistent as much as I needed to be.
Like did you during the streak where you were consistent, did they ever send you to AAA?
Triple A. No, I never got to triple A.
You didn't.
Yeah. That's the only thing I wish I had done, but never did that. So,
I was just curious if like or maybe it went the other way and you went to like a high single like to nurse an injury or something. You hear these storylines.
yeah. Yeah. I think that happened to a lot of my friends. They would just go up to triple A for a second and come back down, but they never did that to me. I don't think. Um,
At three
yeah.
in the morning. Uh, it's a definitive. It's not a like, oh, we're going to send you somewhere else here for a little bit. It's like a thanks,
Yeah, it's like a cutting of the cord. And I knew it was coming because I wasn't doing great. And at that point, I was 5.5 years into my career. I had a long career in the minor league since. Like that's a very long time to be in the minor leagues. So,
That's
um,
20s, 25, 26, something.
yeah, I was 25. And I think if you're 25 and not in AAA, close to the big leagues, like you're old. You're
Yeah.
you might as well be 40 years old. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so what was like, you said it was 3 in the morning. So I don't,
yeah. It
what
was hard.
was
Like what's that?
the next day or the next week? Like,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you about the drive home. So I was driving home to my host family that night, and all this energy started to release from I was like, when you have a flu or like a like you just start chattering, like your teeth start chattering, and like I had a fever or something. Like all this energy started to release from my body when I was driving home, and I couldn't stop. Like my teeth couldn't stop chattering, and I just felt like I was like, I don't know. I just felt like I'd been holding all of this energy for so long, and it was so like tightly wound in my system and I just was able to let it go, which I don't really know how to explain other than like I think I just was uh, like letting really like allowing myself to let go of that. And it comes in waves because um it took years for me to fully like mourn that loss. There's a lot of mourning process, a lot of like kind of sadness that comes along with that.
Wow. Yeah, you know, when you look at professional athletes, like you see people retire all the
Yeah.
time, but you never really
Right.
think about like, you know, or at least I don't think about like what type of mental toll that takes from such an abrupt life change, I guess,
Yeah. It's I think there should be a mental health. It's like retiring from the military, it's PTSD. It's not the same level
Yeah.
of PTSD. You're not getting shot at and you're not getting mortar fire, like, but there is a tightness in your body that you have to kind of like hold to do that for a long time.
Oh. Huh.
Um,
So
so yeah,
how so how fast did you switch back to or let me ask you this first. How
yeah,
much art were you doing during those 6 years?
not a lot, honestly, Josh. It's kind of like I had to cut that or like turn off that valve a
No.
little bit. And I had a sketchbook, so I was doing a little bit of art or like sketching on the bus rides. But my looking back, I wish I had had a watercolor set in the clubhouse and just painting players or painting just all the small moments that, because you have so much time to waste, not to waste, but just in the clubhouse before games, like you're really like just waiting around to play basically for a long time. So there would have been a lot of time to paint and do things like that, but there was just no mental space for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see so
But yeah,
how fast did you make the switch back to wanting to go back to school and pursuing the whole art life?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was hard. I came back. We were living in Atlanta, so I drove back to Atlanta, and my ex kind of, I think this is might be too personal, but she had gotten used to her life with me on the road and only seeing like we only saw each other for a little while every month, and so I think she wanted me to play more. She was like, "Why don't you try and get picked up to a different team?" And I was like, "Well, I don't want to. This is like I knew I had something inside me that I was like, I want to go back to school." So we kind of, it's hard. It was a hard 6 months after that because we were we had been together for 6 years, but we had just gotten married but we were just kids. Like we didn't really know what the heck we were doing. So we were eventually like we separated. So we were living in Atlanta. I went back to summer school to take a quarter at summer school that same year. So I probably went back to school in July just because I needed, like, I couldn't wait around for, it's not like I couldn't, if I had not done anything that summer, I don't know what would have happened. I needed to do something. Um, so I went back to school. I felt really good. All these positive feelings were kind of returning to my body because I was creating again. And it just felt like like I was like, okay, like this makes sense to me to do this. And then, so that I finished that quarter in the summer. And then, my ex and I were continuing to have problems and stuff. So we separated. I actually moved back home. And then I was like, I'm going to give baseball one more chance. So I moved um, to Boston. Actually, Eric Cressy has he's a strength coach in the baseball world, and a lot of my friends were going up to Boston in the off season to train with him. So I went up there to train, and I got in the best shape I've ever been in. And then got picked up by independent league team in the Illinois minors for the 2012 season. So I kind of wanted to see what my time playing what felt like without like the pressure of like having a relationship or having like this is has to be it. I just wanted to kind of let this is for me to know that I'm done, and not just such an abrupt, because it was an abrupt ending for getting released like that and not playing it. And so so it's almost like I had a few false starts back into the real world.
Huh. Well, I I want to give you the opportunity to like talk about what it is that you're doing now and like some of the art that you had commissioned in that time because it was very baseball related.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels like it was, we said earlier, like the stars aligned, but also like maybe a way that you were tying up that loose end, like you were putting a nice little bow on that thing with a period of transition.
I
Like,
agree. I think I was definitely wanted to be in the game still but not playing. So it was a perfect way for me to continue like to feel involved, but not have to not be a coach. I knew I didn't want to be a coach. Like that's all. That's what I knew, and not to say there's anything wrong with that. I just knew that I had this art thing I wanted to figure out.
so I'm going to show my level of ignorance in the painting world. Looking at your gallery online, like
Mm.
it looked like two very completely different things. Like there's the obviously baseball,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't even know how you would describe it, but then like I don't know, there's a whole tarot
Like
card.
abstract stuff and tarot cards. Yeah, all the new stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like what I think we can make the connection between the baseball part, but like
yeah.
what's
That's a whole nother podcast.
oh really?
No, it's so I think um, from 2014, 2013, 14 to like 2020, baseball was it, and I had built my career up as a sports artist and I had been very successful at it. But I think as I started to heal from like, it's not like I had played, I didn't, I think there was like I I missed the game. That's why I painted it so much. I missed playing. I wanted to feel the same feelings I had when I was playing. I wanted to feel connected, and so it was almost like a healing process that was going on while I was painting all these things. And but I was also getting a lot of like positive success and recognition and all the things, and building kind of a career around my sports stuff, which I very much appreciated and was very grateful for. Um, and honestly, I would, COVID kind of put it just ground everything to a halt in a way that I think I had some time to reflect and like I felt like I was really like burnt out from painting so much and painting sports in general, and it's almost like I was singing the same song over and over again.
Yeah.
And that time, COVID allowed me to not paint for a second and kind of discover some other things I was interested in. And I had bought this building and renovating it, and just a lot of like life, really beautiful life transitions were happening and kind of growing up. And I wasn't as attached to being, the successful baseball artist anymore. I think my ego was like really attached to like how people perceive me. And I think, yeah, I had just done that Woodford bottle, and I did the 2020 Woodford Reserve Derby bottle. And like March happened. I was about to do all this press tours and stuff. And like I'm like, oh my God, this is like next level of my career type of thing. And then COVID hit and like everything was canceled. Nothing happened. So I think I was just like bummed out too. I was like, God, this is like But in that moment, like looking back, it gave me a lot of time to just to not be in that mode of like what's next, I guess.
I I pulled back up your bio, and
Uh,
there's a line in there that says a spiritual awakening in 2020 led Richard down a profound path of self-discovery, healing, love, and acceptance. And I read, when I read it the first time, I was like, there's there. Like,
yeah,
that one sentence I think trying to convey a lot just on your artist, you know,
yeah, right.
like the is the you so you mentioned your building
Uh-huh.
renovated it. Were you renovating it for a studio, or were you renovating it for a public place because you do classes and more interactive with people kind of?
It was for my studio, I'd say for sure. I uh, had a studio at the time, but I never owned a building or anything before, and it was kind of this dream I had had for a few years now to have my own space. So I didn't know what the heck I was doing. It kind of that was part of the awakening of just like diving into something I had no idea what I was getting into, and my I had a lot of help. My stepdad helped me a lot, and but but in that things, I think having your own space. I don't know if you feel like this is just like you can put roots down more than if you're renting or if because I was always like, am I supposed to be here or whatever? But I think having my own studio space and kind of like letting it evolve naturally has really helped my artistic evolution as well.
That's no, I think there's a lot of meat in that, that would, you're right, could probably carry on a whole other podcast in that. And I like to think that like in the Disney movie of your life, it's because of the moving around and the like that 20s were so
Yeah.
like driven, and you never know what's next, and it's living day by day kind of thing. To like, do you don't feel that way now? Like,
Oh, that I need to do that in
yeah,
life? No, I have been settled for 6 years now, really. I mean, I hardly, not that I don't want to, but I really haven't traveled a lot. I've been here kind of working and making this my home. And so but it feels good. It feels like I'm safe and I'm having, my days are structured in a way that I like, there's a lot of small moments. It's not like I'm like rushing around a lot anymore, which I feel like that's helped me too, you know.
yeah. I I hate that I feel like we're running short on time
Oh,
now.
it's okay.
Uh, there's so many more things that like I think would be cool to hear, and maybe we do record
Well,
another.
maybe do a part two sometime.
Yeah,
Once you, yeah.
yeah. So like, if if we had to wrap it all up, and
Uh-huh.
you look at everything that you know now, but also what you experienced then, and like that aspect that there's like two lives that you may have lived on purpose.
Mhm.
Like, try to make what's something that you could tell somebody that's younger now, like
Yeah.
16 to 26 is kind of like our target
Uh-huh.
demographic for the stories. Is like, what's something that you could relay to them?
Yeah, I think if you have a passion at that young age, and even if you don't, but if you do and you are unsure of it, like I think we all have to trust our intuition. So if you have something that you're like, I really want to do that, or like I don't know how to do that, or but I think this is it. I think we're all trying to like uncover and get to our intuition enough to trust ourselves. So I think for me, I always had that thing, and that was good because I didn't trust myself at all. I had no trust in myself, but I did have this external thing that led my life. So I think if I had trusted myself when I was younger, I don't know if I would have played baseball for as long as I did. And that might sound weird because I might have been like, yeah, I like baseball, but I really want to do this art thing sooner. But because I didn't, I and baseball was like this huge force in my life that I just wanted to. But I'm so happy I did all the things. I'm not saying anything in my life was wrong or anything, but I do think as when we are young and kind of maybe don't have that internal guidance system as much, I would. But if you have it a little bit, like I think we always like think we don't know, we don't get signals or messages from our intuition, but it could be small, it could be a dream or it could be something that comes in for a second and comes out. But if it's, I think you have to like follow it's like a plan or something. I think as long as you're like, it feels warm, it feels like a joyful feeling and it feels good, that you have to trust that small feeling. And I think you don't know like who knows. I don't know where I'm going to be like in a year. Like nobody ever knows like the path their life is going to take. We all have to be present in that knowing of like, okay, feels good, this next step. So especially in a creative life, I mean, it feels right now I'm in the unknown right now. I have a clue where I'm going, but I know that I have a solid foundation now, and I can kind of I have discernment, and I have all these skills I didn't have before. So, yeah, I think, but also if you're passionate about something, go and do that, go and do that, because that is a huge thing that you have, and not everybody has that.
Yeah, that drive to like go and do something that you're passionate about, but also like take that risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were kind of saying it's like maybe to know when time is up and like it's time, like it's time to put an end to this thing, to go and maybe do something else, or maybe you don't know what's next, but the time is right. Like I don't know. I could not have done that for myself, when I was younger, but I think maybe allowing people to hear, how you've approached such an interesting way of doing things, right? Like,
yeah. And I wouldn't I mean, my life has been, very hectic. I wouldn't recommend it if you don't, it's definitely not been the easy route. So, but in that, I've learned a few things, and I'm very grateful that I'm in the place I am now, getting close to 40 now. So, but yeah, it's I don't know. I think the times have changed. Like I can't imagine how young people feel right now in the world we're living in at the moment. But I do think there's some hope. We all have to have some amount of hope and for people to forgive or make different choices, or all the things that we're trying to get through in this moment of time. And there's a reason we're all here, and we have to kind of follow our internal guidance system to get there, and not feel like the world is just so, there's in all points of history, the world has felt chaotic, so.
And I do want to say thank you for joining us and everything. But like,
you're welcome.
If people want to go and they want to see like what you do as far as art, if you want to share your website or any way that people can get out there and see what it is that you're doing now.
Yeah, I think the best way would be Instagram, and that's Richard Sullivan Art on Instagram. You can go to my website. It's Richard Sullivan Illustration. I need to update it, and I will do that soon. But Instagram, my Facebook, and yeah, I think just if you Google Richard Sullivan Art, and you can see more of my baseball stuff too. Pretty out there on the internet, I guess. So yeah, but moving forward, I try to be pretty active on social media whenever I can.
But yeah, cool. No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate your time and being so attentive.
Yeah, well, no, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah, you too.
See you.
Thank you, Richard, for joining us today. Today's episode was recorded on March 16th, 2026. I hope you enjoyed Richard's story, and I hope you come back to hear the next one.